Today, we're going to talk about SharePoint Embedded, how we're going to use ECM in your custom application that's AI ready. I'm Steve Pucelik, product manager on the SharePoint Embedded team. And today we're going to go through an overview of SharePoint Embedded and how that modern architecture works with your Copilot installation. What we're seeing in the state of ECM today is modernization isn't keeping pace with the user demands and the industry requirements that are out there. Legacy platforms are fragmented, siloed, a lot of increased complexity as they bolt on functionality to existing platforms. Compliance and governance is difficult because data is scattered across multiple different environments, hard to control, hard to govern, hard to manage. And of course, the high operational costs. Anytime you have licensing, you've got server installs, you've got maintenance that has to be maintained on the environment. That all adds to the technical debt that we're seeing in today's ECM environment. The new requirements for ECM today require that everything must be AI ready, period. Not just stored within the platform, but we need to be able to reason over that, use those tools that we are now becoming accustomed to in daily life. Permissions have to be dynamically applied and auditable. There's a lot of regulatory compliance that requires this in your environment today. Metadata is no longer an option. This is something that we cannot rely on users to accurately put in there. We need automation techniques so that we can predictably use that within our infrastructure. Governance has to be extended across all AI agents that you create or will create in the future. And security compliance is just something that has to be there by default. SharePoint Embedded brings the 4 Cs to this environment. Core storage, we're able to securely scale your content at enterprise grade using all the M365 tenant capabilities that you have today. Collaboration is something that users demand. Co-authoring, commenting, at mentioning within the applications and the content that is stored, something that they've grown accustomed to and are requiring within any application that they use. Compliance has to be there from an M365 environment. You've spent the time and money to configure that governance within your environment. SharePoint Embedded is naturally integrated into all of that compliance activity that you have dedicated time to maintain. And of course, Copilot. Now that content is stored natively within the SharePoint Embedded environment, we have the ability to use that Copilot environment to reason over your content. When you build your application, you build your application. You know what the user interface should be. You know what that information architecture should be, how it's going to integrate in with lines of businesses. So if you want to have Dynamics or Salesforce and want to use content, great. What you don't need to worry about is all of the hard stuff, the authorization, e-discovery, audit logging, all of the graph APIs that are available to you through your custom application allow you to easily integrate that document handling ECM functionality that your users expect. So let's see how that works. So you can see here, I have a legal application that I've created. This is a custom application built on top of SharePoint Embedded to help you organize legal cases that you may be working with either in your organization, in your firm, whatever the case is. On the left-hand side, we have containers that represent the different cases that we have. That provides that legal or permission boundary that you need. So I'm only seeing the cases that I have access to. As I'm navigating through the folders that I have in my case, you'll notice that I'm now able to see the appropriate documents that represent that folder content. As I look in the documents themselves, I can click on a particular document. I see the thumbnail of the document appear on the right-hand side. So this gives me easy access to PDFs, TIFF images, all the Office documents at scale. I can search on those and so forth. If I wanted to edit a document, so this is where I have the ability to use that full Office integration and collaboration. Simply clicking on a document, I can edit that in the online experience or the desktop experience, whatever your preference is. Once I edit that in the online experience, this is loading Office online in native Office format. This is not a plugin. This is not a stripped down version of Office that is suitable for SharePoint Embedded. This is full on Office as you would expect. As other folks are joining and collaborating on the document, you'll see them in the top right-hand corner. I have full sensitivity labels at my disposal. If I have a Copilot license, it will show up as you would expect. And I have version history in the document as well. If I wanted to add comments at mention folks, that is certainly an option that I can do as well. As you're adding documents to the case, you'll see that I'm adding invoices into the case as we're receiving that from external counsel, vendors that are associated with this particular activity. If I view the document, I can see a thumbnail of the document. I can blow that out to be a little bit more crisp. But if I look at the properties of the document, now you can see all of the specific file details. If I have metadata that's been associated to that document, I will also see it over here on the right-hand side. So this is where you have the ability to use custom metadata extraction, train your models on that content, automatically extract it, and then store that as metadata within SharePoint Embedded. As you're adding documents to the container or the case in this instance, you now have the ability to view some AI integration within this application. So what I've done is I built in a retrieval API. So this will go and summarize the case information. So it's looking at documents that are in my case and quickly summarizing the information so that I can easily read through that, get pertinent information. But I'm also pulling through specific case personnel. So people that are relevant to the case, who's presiding over the case, who's the counsel, and so forth. And of course, key dates that I can use to reference at a glance. So I don't need to search through the documents. I can easily use the AI integrations in my application to do that for me. Additionally, I have the ability to use the Copilot type atmosphere within the application. If I wanted to summarize the key facts of the case, great. This is going to go again, retrieve the documents that are in my case and give me a quick summary. If I wanted to interact with the content, I could do that. So if I wanted to know what jurisdiction this case is in, it can easily come back and tell me that this is in Florida. If I wanted to know who the judge was or the opposing counsel, or are there any damages in the case, I can quickly interact with that content and it can tell me specifically what the damages are for this particular case. Again, saving me lots of time and effort of walking through exactly what the documents are holding. I'm using that AI integration as you would expect in my application. You can create as many cases as you want. If we wanted to create a new case, you can create that new case. If I wanted to share this externally with some external counsel or somebody associated to the case, I can specifically add those people to the account, add them, give them the appropriate permissions, and then an email link will go to them. Only they will be able to access the content that I've shared with them. Nobody else will be able to see that because it is security trimmed down to that particular user. Getting started with SharePoint Embedded is super easy. We have a Visual Studio Code extension that allows you to create that trial environment within your tenant. Explore the 2-minute video on how you can use the core samples, the API environment, and sample solutions that we have to get quickly started. And of course, visit adoption.microsoft.com/SharePoint, where we have the ability to explore many different solutions that you can use within your custom application today.